Hello, friends, and welcome back to Artifact Adventure, episode number 3. We left off, we're at level 4, here at this bridge, and we're going to go ahead and cross it. And go into a new city here, very close to the bridge. The first little message we get here is by this guy. He tells us that he lost a key. Now, one thing I really like about this game, and I don't know if I've touched on it yet, is the abundance of side quests. You know, nothing is really like essential, except for killing the Swamp King. There's so many other things you can do. And unlike a modern RPG that gives you a quest log, you just kind of have to remember. Now, you can, you can snail it out and write stuff down. I don't. I just kind of, try to keep everything in my mind. And here, this guy gives us a piece of paper. If you're familiar with the last city, you'll probably know what that paper is. It's the warp paper. It's a key item. You can use it as many times as you want. It'll take you right back to the city, which, once again, kind of makes the airship less useful. I feel that the key of time, even that might not necessarily be super useful. If that shrine we discovered earlier is the warping shrine, similar to Dragon Quest games. So, just kind of exploring the city here. Nothing really, out of the ordinary. You do end up using that potion. You'll notice here that the inn is much more expensive in this city than it was in the last. The inn prices don't seem to scale. Now, in some RPGs, the inn cost is based on your level, and so if you go back to the first town, the inn becomes more expensive as you play the game. Here, that's not the case. The first inn is still the cheapest. This guy gives us another side quest. Tells us that a bird's been troubling him. Kill the bird, take a feather, bring it back to him. Problem solved. Here we have our first accessory vendor. And I'm not sure if this is the only accessory vendor in the game, because I'm not far enough along to find another one. But these are a little expensive. They count as a 5th item, so they don't, remove your armor, remove your helmet. Probably it makes sense to farm up some money and buy accessories for everybody. But I'm not going to do that. This guy tells us about a staff he would love to see, and offers a hefty bounty for it. Like many things in the game, I suspect that you make a choice whether or not to give him the staff or not. This NPC here, probably the most important NPC to talk to. And you might notice I slow down a little because I'm actually reading his advice. He tells you where to go. And I speed it up here because I do a lot of inventory management in the shop. Buying stuff, selling stuff. You don't need to see this. I keep it in because, of course, if you're following along, you're going to want to know what I'm using. But I speed it way up. Anyway, back to that other NPC. I don't want to finish on him yet. He gives you 3 directions. He says you can go west, there's a city, there's stuff going on over there. If you're feeling a little bit more confident, you can go northwest, cross some mountains, stronger enemies. Or if you go northeast, he says that that's where the Swamp King is. But there's also a village of weaponsmiths, effectively telling you that you can buy better equipment if you travel in that direction. But because the Swamp King's castle is that way, I think we're probably going to do that one last. Now down here, one man's trash is another man's treasure, and it's the key! The guy said he lost the key, and this guy's selling the key. I suspect that there's more than one key because here are 3 doors. All 3 are locked. This guy tells you what's behind each door. Each door houses an artifact. On the left, steel artifact, Spirit of Steel. The middle, the Waking Bell. And to the right-hand side, Needle of Mobility. Basically, one of them, he says, revives you if you die in battle. One of them stops you from falling asleep. One of them stops you from being paralyzed. I'm not sure if those are passive effects or active effects. But I can tell you that steel one, the steel artifact, the one that stops you from death, sounds useful. And I'm looking here, you can see all 3 of these bridges that the NPC I was discussing with earlier, he told us. So I end up going straight off to the west. Sounds like it's the easiest path. And down here we see this lone tree. Now, usually, you think a lone tree, you got to search that for something. Turns out it's a dungeon. And I'm like, I don't think so. I'm not doing this. I get into a fight, and I realize the enemies here are pretty weak. We're level 4. You know, I'm kind of back and forthing in my head. And I decided to go in. You know, why not? Nothing risked, nothing gained. In the last episode, we died and learned that death in this game, mostly meaningless. You might also notice I leveled up there. We are getting some good experience from these encounters. Of course, I'm editing them out. We come to this lake, and I think, let's freeze the water. Of course, you can't use the ice magic outside of battle. Nope, that's not the solution. Like most traditional NES-era RPGs, you're kind of bound by what the programmer had intended for you to do. And the intent was not to freeze the lake. That's a creative solution. That'll work in, like, Magicka 2. That does not work in Artifact Adventure. We get a bottle of sap. We haven't heard anything about this up to this point. So, it's a key item. Probably a quest involved. Probably somebody lost it. I think, you know, we could continue to explore this place, but we've got the key item. It seems like that's the end. We end up losing our mage in one of the battles here. You can't bring him back. Unfortunately, healing water heals everybody, but doesn't revive from the look of it. So, time to leave. We've pushed our luck far enough here, and unfortunately, stuff starts to hit the fan. You can see the beginning of the end here. The writing's on the wall. Oh, but we make it. We escape. What do you think's gonna happen next? Oh, of course, a random battle right in front of the door. Wouldn't you know it? Isn't that always the case? But we managed to make it out. And you might have noticed something there. Healy, the hermit, doesn't take a lot of damage from enemies. I end up using the warping stones, or the pieces of paper, I guess they are. Get back here to the fortress, and pay an arm and a leg to bring everybody back to life. But you notice the warrior costs a lot more than the other characters, which kind of pushes my theory that it's based on their max HP values. Or maybe a combination of their stats, including HP. And that's what impacts the cost of revival. So at this point, you know, I'm doing the standard Enix style. Push forward, get some levels, get beaten back, run home with your tail between your legs, revive, rest, and then journey back out. But because I've got the sap, I think that dungeon is complete. Now, I will end up going back there later, because turns out it's not complete. Not at all. Kind of sloppy exploration on my half. But, you know, I kind of feel like if you can push yourself to the next town, and here we go, the next town, there's a chance you can get better equipment. Better equipment is often more important than leveling. And maybe as important would be a better way of saying that. Although, in this game, I believe probably, you know, based on what I've seen so far, it's likely you could just rush the Swamp King, you know, at level 1. I would like to see a low-level playthrough. I'm not the one to do it. This guy right here blocks us in. That's a kind of a jerk move. So as we go here, we're exploring everything. We're finding more pesky jar goblins, talking to everybody, accumulating quests, and we learn about a gem mine. Now I'm thinking gems like, you know, money, money, money. But turns out there's actually more going on down there than just money. But that'll be, obviously, something we learn about as we explore the town. And, obviously, as we explore the dungeon as well. So this guy tells us that to the east, and I talked to him twice because, you know, I'm like, I just gotta get past him, is the grave of the bandit we learned about in the first town. The child that said that he wanted to grow up to be just like Wind the Bandit. This guy says he dropped a jar of tree sap. I'm like, hey buddy, take my tree sap. What are you doing? I got it. Don't worry. I found your sap. He won't take it. He won't take it. But his friend mentions something else about the tree sap. This guy says he's working on a sword. The sword needs an artifact. We can, from the sound of it, we can take the Flame Spirit artifact and put it on the sword, thereby losing the ability to use the Flame Artifact magic. Or we can take the Flame Artifact magic and not the sword. Since we've already got so much magic, I end up taking his sword and not giving it back to him. He'll ask for it back. He'll say like, hey, you don't want to do it? You want to keep the flame artifact? That's fine. No problem. Just give me back my sword. I'm like, nah, bro, I got this. I'll go there. I'll get the flame artifact. I'll put your sword in it. This place has the one man's trash and no man's treasure. Keys cost twice as much. 3 doors like before, but listen to this. The left room has the healing mist, which would be our first heal spell. So I'm like, open this door! Let me in there! Give me that heal spell! Making it this far in the whole game without a heal. They really kind of hold you back. I think that probably a decision you made in the town with the healing water is the reason why you don't have a heal spell at this point. Now, we do check out the shop. Everything's really expensive. We have no money because we paid to revive everybody. So, yeah, that's unfortunate. Anyway, we're just kind of going to dink around here in town. At this point, I want to go ahead and tell you, thank you so much, for the support for the series. Appreciate it a ton. The comments you guys are leaving, fantastic. I love to read them. And feel free, the game is now out on Steam, so check it out on Steam. It's like a $7 game, and if you get it in the first week, it's 10% off. So it's worth picking up, it's worth looking at. Feel free to check it out. The link will be in the description down below. Feel free to check out the Patreon page if that's something you're interested in. Feel free to subscribe for more content like this in the future. And until next time, friends, take care and stay classy. And I'll see you then.